Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to start on our next Bible reading. Now, I understand this one could go in a lot of the playlist sections that I have. Could go in the Freemasonry one, could go in the Rosicrucian one, since it is a uniquely Rosicrucian look at passages, selected passages from the Bible. And it's kind of a misleading title, Freemasonry and Catholicism. What it actually is a breakdown of Genesis and other passages, and it's a very insightful text. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the Bible esotericism category, and that's where it'll be. If anybody's wanting everything grouped together, I know they probably don't pop up for you, but if you just go to the playlist section, I've got everything grouped together. I don't know how it shows on whatever device you're using. On my phone, I know that the playlist section doesn't necessarily pop up all the time, so you kind of got to look for it on there. But that's how I've got everything grouped together. All the books that I'm reading will be in one specific area, all in line, if you just go to the playlist section. So without further ado, let's get started on Freemasonry and Catholicism by Max Heindel, who was another Rosicrucian, started the Rosicrucian Fellowship. He's right along the same vein as Steiner. Slightly different, but I believe they have a common lineage, Steiner and Max Heindel. I believe their lineage comes from Alois Mailander was the man's name. Alois Mailander. And both of them had the highest veneration for H.P. Blavatsky. Max Heindel, as well as Manly P. Hall, both credit H.P. Blavatsky to their, I won't say their entire awakening. Obviously, there was other literature that they were reading, but they credit H.P. Blavatsky for much of their, or for a large part of their awakening to all this stuff. Later on, after Steiner had joined the Theosophical Society in Germany and had become one of the main lecturers, he got disillusioned once people like Annie Besant and Alice Bailey took the reins from H.P. Blavatsky when she was in her old age. They took the Theosophical Society in the wrong direction, in my opinion, and in the opinion of Steiner. They kind of started injecting it with almost a communistic element, and they also believed Jiddu Krishnamurti to be the next incarnation of Christ, which Steiner was not going to go along with because it's just not true. Anyway, let's get going. Here we go. Part 1 of Freemasonry and Catholicism. That's the title of this book. Part 1, Lucifer, the Rebel Angel. The Rosicrucian Fellowship aims to educate and construct, to be charitable even to those with whom we differ, and never to vent the venom of vituperation, spite, or malice even upon those who seem deliberately determined to mislead. We revere the Catholic religion. It is as divine in its essence as mystic masonry. Both are rooted in hoary antiquity. Both were born to further the aspiration of the striving soul. Both have a message and a mission in the world, not apparent upon the surface today, because man-made ceremonial has hidden the kernel of divinity in each as a scale, and it is the purpose of this work to uncover that scale and show the cosmic purpose of these two great organizations, which are so bitterly antagonistic. We do not aim to reconcile them, however, for though they are both designed to further the emancipation of the soul, their method is different, and the attributes of the soul fostered by one method will indeed be very different from the quality of the soul nurtured in the other school. Therefore, the strife must continue until the battle for the souls of men has been won and lost. The issue is not, however, the persistence of the Masonic or Catholic institutions, but the outcome will determine the nature of the training humanity will receive in the remaining periods of our evolution. We shall endeavor to show the cosmic root of both of these institutions, the purpose of each, and the training which each will inaugurate if successful. Also, the nature of the soul quality which may be expected to result from each method. The writer is not a Mason, and thus he is free to say what he knows, without fear of violating obligations, but he is a Mason at heart, and therefore frankly opposed to Catholicism. Our opposition is not fanatical or blind to the merits of the Catholic religion, however. The Catholic is our brother as well as the Mason. We would not say a disparaging, irreverent word against this faith or those who live by it, and should we seem to do so in any passage, the wrong will be due to inadvertence, and the reader is requested to note that we distinguish sharply between the Catholic hierarchy and the Catholic religion. But also the former are our brothers, and we would not throw stones either physically or morally, for we know our own shortcomings too well to accuse others. Thus our opposition is not personal, but spiritual, and to be fought with the weapon of the Spirit, reason. We firmly believe it to be for the everlasting good of mankind that the Masons should win, and cannot therefore be sure to present the Catholic side in a perfectly unbiased manner. But we ask our students for whom this is written to believe that we shall try to be just. Of the cosmic facts, we are certain, but bias may creep into our conclusions. Therefore, each must use his reason to test what we have to say. Prove all things and hold fast that which is good. The great law of analogy is everywhere the master key of all spiritual mysteries, and although Masonry and Catholicism do not begin till we arrive at the Earth period, they have their prototype in the earlier periods, and we shall therefore briefly touch upon the essential facts. In the Saturn period, the Earth in the making was dark. Heat, which is the first manifestation of the ever-invisible fire, was the only element. Embryonic mankind was mineral-like, the only lower kingdom of evolving life. Unity was everywhere observable, and the lords of mind, who were human then, were at one among themselves. In the Western wisdom teaching, we speak of the highest initiate of the Saturn period as the Father. In the Sun period, the root of a new element, air, was evolved and coalesced with the true fire, which, mark again, is always invisible, and which manifested as heat in the Saturn period. Then fire bursts into flames, and the dark world became a blazing ball of luminous fire mist at the word of power, "Let there be light." Let the student ponder well the relation of fire and flame. The former lies sleeping, invisible in everything, and is kindled into light in various ways, by a blow of a hammer upon a stone, by friction of wood against wood, and by chemical action, etc. This gives us a clue to the identity and state of the Father, whom no man has seen at any time, but who is revealed in the light of the world, the Sun, who is the highest initiate of the Sun period. As the unseen fire is revealed in the flame, so also the fullness of the Father dwelt in the Son, and they are one as fire is one with the flame in which it manifests. This is the root of all true sun or fire worship. All look beyond the physical symbol and adore our Father who art in heaven. The mystic Masons of today hold this faith in fire as firmly as ever. Thus, it will be seen that the unity which prevailed in the Saturn period continued in the Sun period. The ordinary humanity of that time have now evolved to the glory of archangels, and some are more advanced than others. But there was no antagonism among them. Our present humanity had advanced to a plant-like stage, and was slightly above the new life wave started in the Sun period, but unity prevailed. In the Moon period, contact of the heated sphere with the cold space generated moisture, and the battle of the elements commenced in all its fierceness. The heated ball of fire endeavored to evaporate the moisture, force it outwards, and create a vacuum wherein to maintain its integrity and burn undisturbed. But there is and can be no void in nature, hence the outrushing steam condensed at a certain distance from the heated ball, and was again driven inward by the cold of space, to be again evaporated and propelled outwards in a ceaseless round for ages and ages, as a shuttlecock between the separate hierarchies of spirits composing the various kingdoms of life represented in the fire sphere, and the cosmic space, which is an expression of the homogeneous absolute spirit. The fire spirits are actively striving to attain enlargement of consciousness, but the absolute rests ever clothed in the invisible garment of cosmic space. In it, all powers and possibilities are latent, and it seeks to discourage and check any attempt at expenditure of latent power as dynamic energy required in the evolution of a solar system. Water is the weapon it used to quench the fire of active spirits, and the zone between the heated center of the separate spirit sphere and the point where its individual atmosphere meets cosmic space is a battleground of evolving spirits at various stages of evolution. I'm going to pause right here, and I'm just going to say, keep in mind, it may be obvious to some of you already, but it may not be. Freemasonry represents fire, or intellect, or reason. Catholicism, in this sense, represents water, or collectiveness, or the collective, or everything that goes with the other side. What we're having represented to us right now is both the concepts of Lucifer and Saturn, or Lucifer and Jehovah, depending on how you want to label it, or Lucifer Ahriman. Doesn't really matter the label that you give it, but what we're talking about is the two different opposing life waves of mankind, the two different ways of thinking. There's leaders and there's followers. There's positive and negative. There's those who represent light, those who represent darkness. Those who think for themselves, those who want to be led, right? We've gone over this in previous of the Rosicrucian writings that I've read on here. So everybody should be familiar with the two life waves that we're talking about, where the balance between those is represented by Christ, right? So just keep that in mind. Masonry's talking about fire, Catholicism's talking about water. Okay, and everything related to those two symbols and how they manifest in the world. Okay, let's continue. The present angels were human in the Moon period, and the highest initiate is the Holy Spirit, in parentheses, Jehovah. Now remember also how our Earth evolved. It went from, the very first was the Saturn period, where there was just nothingness, just a dark heat. Saturn period, then Sun period. That was when everything burst into flames, and that eventually became our sun. After that was the Moon period, which was kind of like a watery world. That was after the sun separated. And then there was this watery world left. Then, when Mars came and hit that world that we call moon, that's what actually separated our physical moon that we see up in the sky now from our Earth. And the Earth was left behind, and then the moon separated. Modern science even describes this. So the occultists were right about that. And as time goes on, we will probably realize that they were right about just about everything they said. So the highest initiate of the first Saturn period was the Father. The highest initiate from the Sun period was the Son. And the highest initiate from the Moon period was the Holy Spirit. There you have your Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. These are directly related to the way that the Earth evolved. And it keeps recapitulating those three principles. That Trinity will then keep recapitulating itself. Anyway, I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that. You'll see what I'm saying as we go on. Okay, the present angels were human in the moon period, and the highest initiate is the Holy Spirit, Jehovah. As our humanity and the other kingdoms of life on earth are variously affected by the present elements, so that some like heat, others prefer cold, some thrive on moisture, and others require dryness, so also in the moon period, among the angels, some had affinity for water, others abhorred it and loved fire. The continued cycles of condensation and evaporation of the moisture surrounding the fiery center eventually caused incrustation, and it was the purpose of Jehovah to mold this red earth, translated ADM, or Adam, into forms wherein to imprison and quench the spirits in the fire. To this end, he issued the creative fiat, and the prototypes of fish, fowl, and every living thing appeared, even including the primitive human form, which were all created by his angels, and thus he hoped to make all that lives and moves subservient to his will. Against this plan, a minority of the angels rebelled. They had too great an affinity for fire to bear contact with water, and refused to create the forms as ordered, but thereby they, at the same time, deprived themselves of an opportunity of evolution along the conventional lines, and became an anomaly in nature. Furthermore, having repudiated the authority of Jehovah, they must work out their own salvation in their own manner. How this has been accomplished by Lucifer, their great leader, will be made plain in the following articles. For the present, suffice it to say that in the Earth period, when various planets were differentiated to provide proper evolutionary environment for each class of spirits, the angels under Jehovah were set to work with the inhabitants of all planets having moons from those satellites, while the Lucifer spirits have their abode upon the planet Mars. The angel Gabriel is representative on earth of the lunar hierarchy presided over by Jehovah. The angel Samael is ambassador of the martial forces of Lucifer. Gabriel, who announced the birth of Jesus to Mary, and his lunar angels are therefore the givers of physical life, while Samael and the hosts of Mars are the angels of death. Thus originated the feud, in the dim dawn of the cosmic day, and that which we see as Freemasonry today is an attempt by the hierarchs of fire, the Lucifer spirits, to bring the imprisoned spirit light, that it may see and know. Catholicism is an activity of the hierarchs of water, and places holy water at the temple door, to quench the spirits seeking light and knowledge, and inculcate faith in Jehovah. What they said right there, what Heindel said there is very important. Now, you got to always remember from what perspective you are reading whatever literature you're reading, because the Bible by and large, was written by the school of Catholicism. So therefore, it is going to take the perspective of the water over that of the fire, because it was, they say the winners write history. Well, they were the winners there. So you have basically what you have between Freemasonry and Catholicism is a battle between two schools. One school wants to teach you to think for yourself. The other school wants you to just be led and do as you're told. That is why the water quenches the fire of the intellect. Don't think for yourself, do what you're told, is what is being said. Now also, this is also why we see science in its early days being demonized as coming from the devil. And this is why Freemasons got labeled as devils. And this is why Lucifer eventually became a devil, because anything that's in opposition to what the church says is essentially a devil. That's how we got all of our devils throughout history, is that a new culture would take over the old religions and make their gods devils and rename the gods, rename the good gods in whatever name they wanted, and then all the old names would become the devils. That's exactly what happened here. Excuse me. That's exactly what happened here. It's just that this is when Catholicism took over everything, labeled all the old terms devils, and then gave new names to the things that were good. So you got to understand what perspective you're reading something from. When you're reading the Bible, you're reading it from the perspective of the school of water, or the school of Catholicism. But if you know the esoteric understanding, you'll also know that the school of fire is still within all those texts. It's just hidden. It's esoterically still there. So keep that in mind as we go along. Okay. Thus originated the feud in the dim dawn of the cosmic day, and that which we see as Freemasonry today is an attempt by the hierarchs of fire, the Lucifer spirits, to bring the imprisoned spirit light that it may see and know. Catholicism is an activity of the hierarchs of water, and places holy water at the temple door to quench the spirits, seeking light and knowledge, and inculcate faith in Jehovah. And they will take the holy water and put it right on your forehead where the third eye is, to quench the third eye. See what that means? Okay. As the vernal equinox is said to be at the first point of Aries, no matter where in the constellations it falls by precession, so the point where the human seed atom comes from the invisible world and is taken in hand by the lunar god of generation, Jehovah, through his ambassador, the angel Gabriel, is esoterically the first point of Cancer. This is the cardinal sign of the watery triplicity, and is ruled by the moon. There conception takes place, but were the form built of water and its concretions alone, it could never come to birth. So 4 months later, when the fetus has reached the stage of development corresponding to the second sign of the watery triplicity, Scorpio, the eighth sign, which corresponds to the house of death, Samael, the dauntless ambassador of the Lucifer spirits, invades the watery domain of the lunar hierarchy and introduces the fiery spark of the spirit into the inert form to leaven, quicken, and mold it into an expression of itself. These concepts are always at play as well, these positive and negative concepts. So it takes both of them. It takes both working in concert to create. Think of the positive and negative end of a battery. It takes both to create the synthesis. There, the silver cord, which has grown from the seed atom of the dense body, located in the heart, since conception, is welded to the part that has sprouted from the central vortex of the desire body, located in the liver. And when the silver cord is thus tied by the seed atom of the vital body, located in the solar plexus, the spirit dies to life in the supersensual world and quickens the body it is to use in its coming life. See, that's very interesting what he said right there. It's very important. The Samael spirits are called the spirits of death because they essentially make the spirit die. The spirit dies to life in the supersensual world. See, it's all about perspective. That's why the body is the sepulcher of the soul, because that spirit self dies, only temporarily though. That's why it's still able to be resurrected. It doesn't actually die, it's just sleeping within the body. That's the same thing as the coiled up, sleeping Kundalini snake at the base of the spine. It must be raised, right? This is the exact same principle that the Lucifer spirits represent, right? And that's why the serpent is associated with Lucifer, right? So, the spirit dies to life in the supersensual world and quickens the body it is to use in its coming life. This life on earth lasts until the course of events foreshadowed in the wheel of life, the horoscope, has been run, and when the spirit again reaches the realm of Samael, the angel of death, the mystic eighth house, the silver cord is loosed, and the spirit returns to God who gave it, until the dawn of another life day in the school of earth beckons it to a new birth that it may acquire more skill in the arts and crafts of temple building. About 5 months after the quickening, when the last of the watery signs, Pisces, has been passed, the representative of the Lucifer spirits, Samael, focuses the forces of the fiery sign Aries, where Mars is positively polarized, so that under the impulse of dynamic energy, the waters of the womb are voided, and the imprisoned spirit liberated in the physical world, to fight the battle of life. It may blindly butt its head against the cosmic forces as typified by the first of the fiery signs, Aries, the ram, which is a symbol of the brute strength brought to bear upon the problems of life by the most primitive races. Or it may adopt the more modern method of cunning as a means of attaining mastery over others, which characteristic is signified in the second of the fiery signs, Leo, the lion, the king of the beasts, or perchance he may rise above the animal nature and aim at the stars with the bow of spiritual aspiration, typified in the last of the fiery signs, Sagittarius, the centaur. The centaur is just ahead of the watery sign Scorpio, a warning that one who tries to reach the last stage and assert his divine right of choice and prerogative as Freemason, spelled P-H-R-E-E-M-E-S-S-E-N, that is the precursor to the word Freemason, as Freemason, a son of fire and light, will surely feel the sting of the scorpion in his heel to goad him onward and upon the path where men became wise as serpents. It is from this class that mystic masonry is recruited, with men who have the indomitable courage to dare, the unflagging energy to do, and the diplomatic discrimination to be silent. And that is going to end the first chapter of Freemasonry and Catholicism by Max Heindel. If you know other people who are already seeking, and this would not be a pearl tossed to swine, then go ahead and like, share, and subscribe and tell people about it, but don't cast pearls to swine. If someone doesn't want to know or they're not ready, don't waste your time, because just as was said about the ram, you will be butting your head against a wall and you'll cause yourself all kinds of undue stress because you cannot make a horse drink, right? You can lead the horse, but you cannot make him drink. And that's just a fact. And anyone who's gone down this path very long and who has the zeal to want to inform everyone will understand that. And this is why silence is such a big deal within esoteric philosophy, because it doesn't do you any good to go spouting off the truth to people who don't want to hear it, and to those who might actually use it against you in their misunderstandings. So keep that in mind. And with that, we're going to end it here. And thanks again for listening, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you again later.